Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to East versus West.
And hello to another Sunday night casual with me, Dexter, your host, and welcome to all the updates and basic Q&A for the whole week. So I know we've launched several new initiative. Uh, a lot of it's positive. You see a lot more of our athletes pushing our new extended pass, and I'll get into that a little bit more later as more and more people jump on. But for the most part, very happy to be here every Sunday. It's the last Sunday before EVW 21 in Atlantic City this coming Saturday, December 13th. So very excited. Uh, There is Gregor's Knutson 1124. Yes, I have. And if you've seen on that specific post, I have you know clarified that it is the after pull extended pass. Okay, so let's get straight into it. I guess people are already diving into this because this seems like a big thing. Okay, so the extended pass will be more organized now than ever before. Okay, so in the past it was just, well, we have tables left behind if fans wants to pull another fan, and rarely once in a blue moon we would have some athletes who stay behind and do some pulls, but usually athletes will pull another athlete kind of level. Uh but this time we are doing it in a more structural setting, in the form where all at well most of our athletes, now obviously we can't force them if they're injured or and whatnot, but we will have all the athletes. Right now, we have a designated room next door to our main ballroom, main event hall, where tables will be set up, the cameras will be all ready to go, and then you will potentially see a lot more action and potential practice after type polls kind of thing with some of our athletes. Potentially you might see a sneak peek with Devin versus Camille kind of thing, right? So that gives you a little bit more uh structured action versus an unorganized type of after pull. Now, obviously, for everybody who's thinking of whether or not they should be getting a VIP pass or gold pass and whatnot, we will be structuring it in a way where we'll have, now, first and foremost, all VIPs will be receiving they'll be receiving a sort of a waiver right ahead of time. So they need to fill out the waiver if they want to participate in after poll, and everyone beyond that will also need to sign a waiver, right? Now, with the waiver, it also allows the athletes to now pull. Now, obviously, the athletes are pretty good when it comes to knowing the limits of the person they're pulling. Very likely that they would not experience any form of any dangerous position. They'll probably stop by then because it's still, at the end of the day, it's a practice type pull. Now, so the idea is we'll have athletes versus athletes, a little bit of that going around. We will have at least 2 to 3 cameras roaming around, and then the video board switchers, they'll be actually picking up they will be seeing which site, I know, which sort of practice pull after pull would be most exciting, and then they'll switch to them, right? So that's kind of how that would be. I mean, so uh we will have that. Plus, we will also have the opportunity for, once that after that starts to, we'll mix it around. So the VIPs, ticket holders, will get to go in first to pull, and then followed by the golds and silvers, and then the general admission guys. So in that order, everybody will need to sign a waiver, as I mentioned. So everything's structured. And so if you're thinking of coming or not, I'd say you should, because this is a good chance for interactions to happen between EBW athletes and fans in a more organized manner. It's So you will see more than just random people, two random guys pulling each other. At least the first, I would imagine, hour or so. Maybe if it's really longer. Now, that's kind of how I'm envisioning this. Right, this is a pilot program. uh I don't think it's been done before. Now, then people are saying, dude, it's super expensive, right? It's super expensive. How can you charge 50% more for this? Now, that was never the intention. The intention was to split it in thirds, okay? So athletes will get a good portion of the money, right? And the remainder would be in a form of a discount. So I really hope that everybody don't just doesn't blindly buy the extended pass. They go and input, and the whole reason, right? Because we were thinking, okay, well, that's one way of purchasing things where the price is permanently discounted, and people would need to go look for an athlete and select the athlete's name. I didn't want to do it that way because I still want it to be an organic approach where athletes themselves are promoting it, right? To promote the event themselves, right? Instead of us doing all the work, we want the athletes to also, hey, come support me and use my code, right? So with that, that's why we put the full price in of $10, right? Actually, it's $9.99. And when you put in any athlete's code, right, they will get a $3 discount, right? When you purchase. So there's that. The athletes will get $3, right? And then we are left with four. Now, the broadcast companies with all the tech broadcast costs would already take over $1. And ultimately, we are left with three, but then we have to pay more to the operators, to the broadcast companies, to stay behind and film. So this is really not so much a money generating kind of thing for us, but it allows us to offset some costs and also find a way to tip the athlete, right? Uh, it gives us a few important metric in a way where it's along the lines of seeing which athlete is doing a lot of pushing. Now, obviously, we do take into consideration, well, there are certain athletes who have a larger social media presence, just like Monster Michael thought. He will he'll probably have, at least I imagine, because I already seen him start pushing that a little bit. I would imagine that he will have a better number than some of the other athletes, but that still doesn't mean that a newer athlete for the first time, say Jason Merlo, but for the first time he's coming on East versus West stage, he could still push it to his local community, his club members, whatever his training buddies. So it still gives us an idea of where everything is, and who's to say that there was an abnormally on how interesting or how much some guy does in marketing. So point being is, I really like to give find a way to tip the athlete. So it's nothing really about us. If you really do the math, doesn't really have that much of a financial incentive, especially we're giving all the like a big chunk of the money away in the form of a discount and to the athletes. So there's that. Now, in regards to that, I am gonna put up the message board so people could see the comments. Comments, show comments on stage. There we go. Okay, so I'm gonna start answering questions. Let's see. Oh yeah. So now to clarify further, the after pool will be released, but it won't. One of the things that we have to be really careful of, right? As soon as the event's over, there's still a lot of hype going on. We still want to focus on now. Just to give you guys an idea, we do get a decent amount of revenue from the YouTube, our YouTube releases of the full match videos, right? So when the full match videos comes out, it generates a lot of hype, and because so it needs to be that perfect one week time frame. Now, then in between that, that's when I call it the slow zone, where we still haven't really got all the matches for the next event. So that's maybe about when we'll release it. So it'll be between that. I'm talking about the after poll videos. It'll be between that and the start of the promotions for the next event. So there is that window. I don't know exactly when, and to be honest, it will still be edited heavily because, well, I think my goal would be one that's a full length, so it could be a 2 hour video that's unedited, and there'll be some that is partially edited. So, example, right? If let's say example, right? I'm not saying that would happen because I want everything to be organic. If Devin ends up doing a practice both with Camille, well, that needs to be its own video, so it still needs time. So I hope nobody's starting to like, hey, when's it out? When is it out? I will update you guys every Sunday, but that is kind of the idea. That's kind of the time frame. It could be 3 weeks after the event. It could be 2 weeks. It could be 4 weeks after the event. I'm not quite sure yet, but this time there will be a gap. So there's that. Let's see. I'm scrolling down. Uh, Pietro Gladio C. Hey Dexter, have you considered a Legends Open category? Maybe bringing athletes like Team Bresnan. I have not actually. I actually have been told other ideas that seem to be pretty interesting. One would be doing an event where it's like, you know, military's night or first responders night. You know, the cops versus you know, the paramedics, or firefighters versus, the cops, something like that, to that effect. So, and then there's another one, it's military night. So, the navies and versus the armies versus the National Guard, whatever. I thought that was pretty fun. Now, obviously, we there's so much ideas, but executing it's still kind of tricky. So, but there's that. Uh, there is that. Let's see. The next we have some after poll. Yeah, I actually have seen some after poll have higher view counts. I mean, look at our Levon versus Devin kind of practice poll that generate a lot of interest. Dexter, there was some issues with the athletes code since they were released at different times, and I didn't want to risk the offer. I had to pick something more or less at random. Yeah, that's I think that's the athlete's prerogative, really, when they release. I still haven't seen all athletes publishing their code just quite yet, but all athletes, they are given a code. So whether or not they push it, it's really on them. I mean, I can't really force too much that, oh, you have to post, you have to post. I can't always. We do encourage them to post, but if they take a while to post, then they kind of missed out, I guess. But yeah, so that is the case. Every athlete has the code. They were all given the codes the same time. So yes, Atlantic City, it's almost here. Let's see. Uh, in Phil Woody is saying, in my opinion, all athletes need to push arm wrestling events more, but it's not in their nature, to be honest. Devon does well, but from experience, less than 1 week before arm wrestling, they only focus on their best condition. That's okay. So this time is also not fully the athletes to blame for when they push the code. What happened is because of this new initiative, it took, and this being the first one, right? And I hope people's a little bit more lenient, is that it there was a lot of hurdles from a technological standpoint to code all 22 athletes in. Uh, so that's why a lot of people have asked, "Hey, why doesn't content creator have a code?" Well, in the near future, content creators will be they will be included in the program, but it won't come naturally. They have to. I'll probably set up like a form that they have to fill out, and then there might be certain criteria that your social media channel needs to be X amount of views. I don't care so much of subscriber count. I care more of the last few views they had for maybe the past month video or something like that. Because as you can see that there are many cases where the view counts does not match the subscriber counts, especially if you have if your old count is really old. With couple million subscribers, but you've been dormant for such a long time and you start restarting something, it kind of hits, your algorithm doesn't push your content up very much. So there is that. So subscriber counts in this day and age doesn't really matter as much anymore compared to in the past, uh, because with AI and more sophisticated algorithm, they realize that it's, subscribers. The only thing that subscribers does, it helps a little bit more because they will notify a percentage of the people. Now, I'll give you an example on something to do that, which is also why that I will be creating a new social media, a new YouTube channel that's only dedicated strictly for arm wrestling, because this one has a little bit of mix, so it's kind of affected a little bit. Now, example, if I have a channel that strictly only talks about arm wrestling, it will do pretty well, better, because it knows the people who are uh that they're targeting, so aren't just arm wrestlers. Now, if all of a sudden I start to throw in a little bit of strongman videos and in there, and then it gets confused because if it's an arm wrestling video, they show it to the strongman and it doesn't do very well, then now it's confusing. So YouTube now will de-rank and deprioritize your video and push it out to less people. So this whole algorithm thing, it's almost every quarter that I have to sit down and spend hours and hours just reviewing and studying what the new changes are. And this is one of the major changes, is we cannot, have kind of a weird direction. So yeah, it's something we have to kind of focus down a little bit. Now let's see. Let's see. Hi, Dexter. I appreciate the effort you're putting into all this. If at times I don't agree with the approach, one thing I do think is a genuine mistake is the idea of paywalling after polls. Now, and this is from Mighty Silverback. Now, Mighty Silverback, I think uh okay, so in your next message is the after polls are usually very casual, friendly, no constant starts and stops, and athletes are happy to give and take a little bit more, makes it easier to send to noobs. You're not wrong. Now, I would imagine that if there's a different terminology, I would probably use it, because I think even in practices, right? There is a range of practices. You could go into a practice and when you're preparing for a super match, you really go hard, right? And then there are some practices where neither hand ever comes close to a pin, right? They're just working on hand movements and whatnot. Okay, so and I believe in the after polls that I've been involved in. I mean, there's probably a video out there somewhere. The the after polls can also have that massive range, and in this time, it will be a lot more organized. So, and it's also a way to you know to make it at a higher level quality. Now, to give you an idea, all right, just to give you an idea how much you spend on production, which on it doesn't seem like it's a lot, because there is this what we call diminishing returns, right? Uh, The first, let's say you want to do a live stream, the cheapest way, the absolute cheapest way, is to have your cell phone, right? You have your cell phone, you live stream it just on your cell phone. That's it. That's the cheapest way. It doesn't cost you any more money than to purchase a phone. Then the next level is that I've seen, where now you maybe have webcams. You have multiple webcams connected to camera, and then you live stream from your laptop. The next level is an actual cameras, right? But they are potentially consumer grade cameras, more like the Sony ZV-E10, the A60 series kind of level, right? Okay, and those starts every time you do that, it's only a couple thousand more, right? But to get to the level that we're trying to push, right? I feel like it would be in the realm of, it's I hate to say this, but in Switzerland, it was over $100,000. And it seems like, well, I'm kind of making this up, but it is okay. If you see the level of production, I don't know if we released that video yet. Maybe I have. Oh, you know what? I did do a video. I live streamed the whole thing, and I visited the two vans that showed up with all the crazy amount of equipment. Right? That was a million. Like that was over $100,000. It wasn't cheap with everything going on. Um, you know, that's unfortunately that is the case that we're putting so much that in, and so in order to have them stay behind for more of that same production quality, we are just taking the $3 to cover our costs, right? It's really that's what the cost goes to. And also, I know it may seem like, well, it's a paywall. People have to pay to watch something that is traditionally free. I get that, but traditionally, after pools were not organized. After pools were extremely casual. And so I think the product is completely different. That's that's what I'm saying. I don't think it's the same after pool that you're imagining it of. At least for the first section. The first section is mostly like structured organized polls. That is the slight difference. And for those coming in later, I would go back and watch the first 10 minutes of the video. I do explain exactly what the whole after poll is. It's a very organized approach. uh and it's honestly, I understand everybody is kind of suffering. The economy isn't very great, but at the end of the day, I this is one way that I feel athletes can get rewarded, right? It's a way to, I think last week somebody says, yeah, it's a good way to tip the athlete. So that that's where ultimately where I'm getting at, because if you see on the financial standpoint, it's not a money maker for us. It's strictly for the mostly for the athletes. Yeah. So here's another thing. GP6XQ saying, "Are you not doing Beyond the Table anymore?" I am. It's just that I used to. So Adam Silver used to work full time for us, but now he's only helping us part time because he found another gig in Orlando, and he was the one who's helping me schedule all the athletes. Uh, so he was helping me schedule all the athletes. Uh, so I technically do have one with Georgi Svekov, but he's traveling and he was supposed to send me some media, but we were planning on doing it tomorrow. So there is that. But I really do enjoy that a lot. And DJ USA, you're right. Switzerland is super expensive. But even not Switzerland, look at Atlantic City, right? Uh, Unfortunately, we have to pay quite a bit more because there's the whole union labor thing in Atlantic City, but it's still a lot of money. It's still a lot of money. I mean, we're flying people, experts in from all around the world just to get our broadcasts right. So let's see. Let's see. Why was Devin and Levant practice on a not? I guess you're asking, not on a proper arm wrestling table. Okay, so it was a complete last minute thing. It was on completely unplanned, and the venue, well, because on the timing on when they practice, there was no more tables at the hotel, and it was all at the venue. So, and Devin, it was a complete unplanned. It was supposed to be the day after, but Devin just couldn't help himself. It's like, I gotta get Levon down in practice. So that's why there was actually a hidden clip that even me saying, "Hey, isn't this supposed to be tomorrow?" But I think we had it removed. But that was the idea. It was supposed to be the day after when it actually took place. But it, there was no massive uh you know so don't overthink it as to why it wasn't done on not on a arm wrestling table. We just didn't have one, and we don't want to give up that opportunity. So let's see. Yeah, deeps, you're right. Maybe I shouldn't call it after pool. I should call it extended pools. you know this is why I like the community. The community is very passionate, and I hope everybody here understands that the one thing that Robert and our philosophy, because we've been really thinking like, well, we see that a lot of the m- big promoters, are talking like UFC Dana White, or like, I mean, like the other one that we've kind of got connected to is Dave Portnoy, right? And you notice they're very polarizing. They have a very strong personality on one side, and that also means that they have a lot of haters from the other side. But the one thing that we are still trying to balance is that we we take a lot into consideration, from the fans. So anytime the fans, like, you guys are disagreeing on certain things, at one point I did think, okay, well, maybe I should, uh, you know, kind of block, well, sort of keep the after polls, kind of like never release it permanently. But then after, with the community coming out and everything, again, last week it wasn't kind of set in stone yet. I was still debating amongst my, just thinking about it. But with the committee talking about it, and I got convinced by a whole bunch of people why I should release it at the end of the day. And we are, right? And that's the idea, right? The community should also dictate what, for instance, I think I've always been a champion of this, is what matches do they want to see? Which athlete do they want to that they would like to see competing? That's the whole idea here, right? I need the community to help me guide EVW to the next level. So that is the whole idea. Did EVW have any play in the cancellation of Noodalot and Tundale super matches at GVW? No, no. I don't even know if they're still carrying it on. And I don't know. All I know is that, uh, the slight difference between how we run things and them, I would say, is that for especially the athletes who are unable to receive wire transfers, we normally have the money in hand before the event actually ever happens. So even if we get $0 from pay per view, or nobody shows up to our event, the athletes will get paid. I think that that's ultimately one of the more important things, because as soon as you run an event, you should have the expenses ahead of time, right? You can run a restaurant and pay your vendors with the hope that when I sell food to other my customers, I'll take that money and pay my vendors. It should be the other way. It should be the other way. You should make sure your costs and everything's taken care of, before you try to run an event. So it's, I don't know. I don't want to give them any more highlight or mention them as much as I can, because obviously they're not worth mentioning. Uh, let's see. Gregors Knutson says you should do a King of Table event with same country matches to determine overall number one. Tobias Sprong versus Philip versus Terrence, Zurinov versus Morozov, Jerry versus Michael. Well, so uh, just to give you an update with King of the Table, now there is quite a bit of a gap between now and Vienna. So the one thing that we are looking into quite seriously is to host an event on January 31st or so, whereby we will have a King of the Table tournament, and it will be a tournament format, double elimination. And we'll try to use, a lot of EVW athletes. Now, we are still thinking, is that a financial viability? Now, so the pros of having that event is that, number one, there's more EVW sports level type content out there. So it keeps our channel engaged, and the algorithm does favor high engagement. So when we have Vienna, when we do promotions for Vienna, with the high level engagement, more people will see it, right? So that's kind of, we had to regrow a lot of our, because of the without Baku, we had that big gap between Switzerland and Colorado that kind of hurt our algorithm. So that's why we've really that's why I'm in favor of having an event in January. But It's not a lot of time. So that's why I'm I'm still thinking if we can pull it off, right? Vienna. Somebody's asking what's the exact day of Vienna. It's February 28th. So that's what it is. Sir Bagels is like, how you stay wealthy is by not spending it on things that aren't guaranteed to get you a return. I think Robert is very wealthy. He just isn't stupid. People have come into the sport and wasted a lot. Yeah, the idea behind the King of the Table is that so engagement is high, but from the financial standpoint, it it works out in a way where instead of having, well, potentially we will do two weight classes, right, and arms. So it will be more like maybe if it's out of a 8-man group, we might have two groups. One could be, we were thinking out loud, it could be the super heavies left, right, and then we could also do maybe one of the lighter weight category, lighter weight class, maybe the 85s, perhaps, right, right arm. So we could do those double elimination. We'll do best of three, and finally maybe the grand final of the whole weight class would be best of 5, right? Something like that. And out of the 8, we were thinking perhaps we could do something like an actual king of the table qualifier event, and the winner gets a spot in there. Now it will be done ahead of time. So so for sure January 31st is kind of the idea. We are looking at Orlando, but we've already had Orlando before. So right now we're thinking maybe Atlanta. I don't know if somebody in the chat has ideas, send an email my way on Discord, private message me on Discord. If they have a venue that's all ready to go and they would like to help us set things up. Right now, I have been talking to Chance Shaw about doing something in Orlando, but somebody reminded me that perhaps maybe we should take a break on Orlando this year and do it sorry, take a small break from Orlando. I don't know, maybe Orlando's the answer, but yeah, it will be how the name presents itself. Okay, King of the Table. So there's that. And also another country has reached out and they've gave me a pretty compelling proposal that I'm actually considering. It's none other than Singapore. Singapore would like to host an EVW event there, and I'm thinking that it would be great to have a King of the Table ish event in Singapore. So that would be March 14, 15 if we do have that. So that's kind of what I'm thinking there. Yeah, you would love to see a COD event. So that's how I could see COD being differentiated compared to East versus West. Hey, Iowa. Um, Another question from DJ: is Ray going to history all of official podcasts? He has zero charisma for that kind of work. Travis would be 1,000 times better. Okay, so let's talk about Ray. Okay, let's talk about Ray. I spoke to Ray and I saw the comments. I pointed out to him. I showed him, you know, uh, you know, here's the slight difference between, well, I mean it's a very big difference, which is what I'm actually thinking about. How are we going to change this now? uh, and some of the redditors, they're pretty observant and pretty smart that way, is that they mentioned Ray is one person that is different. He's different in the way where he's technically not an owner, right? So unlike Ingen, and I think this one we have to give credits to Ingen in a way where he's able to stir the pot more, whereas Ray can't, because ultimately Ray interviews them, and Ray is a commentator, and Ray is always on stage with them, and he's doing a lot of the other type of media work. If he were to ask the athletes tough questions and try to stir the pot, they could sideline him and ignore him and make his job more difficult, which is why he's playing in a very he's very conservative in his question and is very kind of mild, which is technically not what we want, right? Whereas as an owner, I could go up to an athlete and just tell him, dude, you gotta leave. And they would leave. So I'll give you an example, right? I think was it Seagov's match or something, right? Against Dave Shafee. That perhaps he did not understand the challenge flag, that if he wastes the challenge flag on on a protest that he lost, he can't use it anymore, right? And so when he tried to use it a second time, the rest reviewed it, says no, and he was kind of bugging the commentator's booth, right? He's like making a lot of things, and nobody could get him off. And ultimately, I have to run up on stage to kind of pull him off. That's, I think, the slight difference between, an owner versus not, because I'm not afraid of certain things like that, right? I can ask the tough questions, and by hook or there's nothing they can do about it. It's not like they can get me fired. So I think there is that kind of. So I think Ray has he has a lot of uh he has a lot of value, but just not in the form of trying to stir pot, create drama in a very organic way. Like he can ask the athlete, hey, uh, what do you think? How are you gonna lose, or like, are you gonna what are you gonna do when you lose? Nobody, like, he can't say that because athletes don't like to be asked a negative question, right? And they were like, "Why are you asking me such a stupid question? You think I'm gonna lose, right?" So, right, but I could ask it, Robert could ask it, but unfortunately, I am not well versed quite yet. It'll give me a little bit more time. I'm still studying a lot of history. I'm actually watching a lot of videos from the past, right? I'm still learning new, especially legends, right? So and so, is a legend, and I have to go back and see his work, kind of thing. Those are the things that I still need to get caught up on. So I'm not that kind of person. I'm not the right person to do interviews in that manner. But yeah, so I kind of spoke to Ray. We'll probably do a change in those official podcasts, just so everybody knows. We will be also this time on Thursday at noon Eastern, I believe, around noon Eastern. We will be doing the same exact thing, because apparently this is what blew my mind, right? Remember the Live Athletes podcast? But that went on for like 5.5 hours, so it's a little long. I'm gonna try to shrink it down to about 4 hours, maybe less. But that's what we're gonna be doing. That athletes live stream had more views than our press conference. So yeah, so that was pretty funny. And so we're gonna do the same thing, but this time it'll be a little bit more organized. We will have a lot more microphones. We will have multiple cameras, and potentially a better stream overall, because it's now, when I saw it, I was like, okay, well, it's now worth investing. So there's really there. Yeah, I'm seeing a whole bunch of people giving us ideas. We are going to start vetting them, and picking people who, yeah. So yeah, it's I feel some of the best interviewer can also be polarizing in a way, right? Even right now, even in this chat, I'm seeing people kind of disagreeing with one another. Just thanks everyone. Like 18 subs till we hit 10K. Yeah. So I just think that we'll have to find somebody that can sort of, who knows arm wrestling and also can stir the pot, and isn't afraid of not being popular amongst the athletes. I think that's a pretty big thing. Yeah. So anyway, Greg, I think the purpose of after is keeping it casual. I think maybe somebody just pointed out, maybe it's not called after maybe it's called extended polls, and maybe that will clear things up just a little bit. Uh, yeah, I see right here, extended polls. That's funny. Yeah, yeah. I think that'd be cool. You know what though, DJ, you do have a good point. You do have a good point. Maybe if I took out like a stack of cash, right, and every time there is you know there's a very interesting match. As is the next person who wins this match gets X amount of dollars. That could be kind of it adds a lot more excitement. But I need stacks of dollar bills. Kind of interesting. So Devin and Erms, I thought it was everywhere already. If it isn't, I'll have to check back. Officially, we do have some. I think we have at least only 2 cameras, but there were like so many cameras around that thing. But I'll look into it. I'll look into it. Uh, Bar Stools. Yeah, we did a collab with Bar Stools back when we were in Chicago. So that's when I met Dave himself, and he's a big BYU guy. So that's one of my alma maters. Uh, So Mighty Silverback says, genuinely appreciate the response. I do personally think lower production / casual afterpools are great, and I worry that investment in leveling up those could be better spent on the main. I mean, we already spent so much money on the main. I mean, if you saw a Swiss event is pretty high level. In my opinion, we use the absolute best camera. So I don't think you've ever seen camera quality of that level 100%. It even far exceeds the Colorado's event, because they had one more tech in there that is next level. So I think our main event's fine as is. Um, let's see. Question for the chat from DJ851. I've seen you guys talking about builds. I'm thinking of buying a pre-built Skytech Blaze 2. Not sure what that is. Oh, okay. I think okay. I know what that is. This is talking before the whole podcast started. We were talking about computer parts being really expensive because DDR5 RAMs or like 64 gigs are running at about $700 right now. Pretty nuts, super nuts. But let's see. Sir Bagels FGR. Anyone have any idea what happened with Bone and GBW? He said he wouldn't be at the next event anymore on a post saying he wanted to fight everywhere. Surely that would benefit from having his fans. Uh Not quite sure, to be honest. Not quite sure. I don't follow. I know Bowen did send Robert and I a message, and I think Robert responded to Bowen's because I think he wanted to participate in the Friday event, and he was wondering when is our next event outside of America. Maybe don't Vienna. That's about it. Someone saying, I also think the arm wrestling community might be slightly overestimating Robert's wealth. Now, even if Robert's a billionaire, doesn't mean he didn't get there by donating a whole bunch of money to everywhere. I think everything comes to be fiscally responsible. If we think that we can see a bright future, which we are, right, we'll do it. But with certain limitations, right? We're not gonna throw a $1 million prize money for a tournament, which is highly unnecessary. I think even if we did a King of the Table tournament, right? I think the way we would do King of the Table tournament would be instead of paying athletes a fixed fee, right, per their contract, because their contract is really super matches. We might do something that's like it's a 50,000 cash prize where $25,000 will go to first place, and 10,000 to the next, to the second place, and it trickles all the way down to the last place of eighth place, right? So it's another style of doing things that I think honestly you'll get a ton of athletes with a $50,000 prize money pool, right? That's what we're kind of thinking. uh it's not going to draw too much different. It's not like if you put $1 million in and all of a sudden, there's a new hidden champion that rise up from nowhere to compete. That's not going to happen, right? Especially say we're doing supers left. It's still going to be the same guys. Maybe Vitali now all of a sudden will come to the tournament, and Dadigan and Alijan might show up if it's $1 million. Who knows? Maybe we'll see Levant too. But I think so. There is a massive diminishing return. So I think fiscally responsible to be, responsible. I think, 50,000 for a prize pool is pretty good too. But again, Sir Bagels, I says if Rob, I'm not sharing any personal information on financials of Robert's net worth, but I said if. So leave it as that. Um, let's see. Are you planning to host a tournament before every EVW from now on? We will absolutely try to host an EVW tournament. This time, uh, we will have one in Atlantic City too as well. So the idea of hosting a tournament, we haven't figured a structured way of doing things just quite yet. Where the original goal that the winner of the tournament now gets sort of qualifying points, and with that allows them to go in on the main stage. However, we don't have enough events to justify that, right? Especially there's so many weight classes. All right, there's two arms, men women division, so it's quite challenging to do that. But here's what we'll say, is that coming to the tournaments, depending on the caliber and everything, we actually pay attention to the winners, right? We have scouts always checking in on the winners, and with enough wins, it will draw some attention. So, like for instance, right, Jason Merlo, right? He won a tournament, right? Well, I mean, an event. He did pretty well, and he was kind of sort of scouted by Robert himself. Robert's like, dude, this guy has potential. Let's bring him on. So what I'm saying is, don't go to an event with the hopes that, well, if I win, I get to go on the EVW main stage directly that way. I say go to the tournament to expose yourself to everybody, because there are more promotions than just EVW, right? There's so many promotions. As a matter of fact, I think there's one event going on right now. So here's my thought, right? If we have enough, uh, you know, tournaments, it should give people a chance to showcase their capability, and there is also a two-pronged thing, because people going to the tournament, typically we will say that if you buy a general admissions ticket, you can you get one entry for free. So if you're trying to do both arms, one arm will be free if you have the general admission ticket, which is roughly probably a little bit more expensive than your entry to one of the tournament. So it helps our tournament attendees number grows as well. So when he was first getting into the EVW scene officially, I remember people claiming he was the biggest Five Guys chain owner. He is. Robert is. Yeah. So we love burgers. We love burgers. So Five Guys. Five Guys is really a really. If you know anything about how they operate, if you notice, for a chain restaurant, they have zero marketing. They only believe on the word of mouth and high quality and over, uh, you know, under promising and over delivering kind of method, right? Which is why their fries is usually double the size, except in Canada, because Canadians don't like waste. So you can't give them too much. If you give them too much, they'll be complaining it's a waste. So welcome to Canada. Uh, that's yes. I'm just seeing something funny. Singapore would be awesome. Please make Ongabaya versus Yoshi Kanai happen in Singapore. Uh, okay, so to answer Greg Knudsen, here's the idea. We are thinking of a tournament format. So now, if it's two weight classes, one of the weight classes will be in the lighter weight category. It could be in the 77 or in the 70, depending on, uh, who, depending on the availability then. Because ideally, on something like that, where we are being sponsored and they have, like, some support here and there, we would like their national hero of arm wrestling. He's really the Southeast Asian godfather of arm wrestling. He competed in Arlington this year. His name is Valen Lau. Valen Low. So he would have to compete there, and then hopefully he brings a whole bunch of the Singaporean fans there. So that will be it. Singapore would be a tremendous venue, but I can't help but feel the cost of getting athletes out there and hosted would be huge. Well, I think that's where some sponsors would help, and they have kind of proposed that there may be a sponsor that can cover a lot of that for us. So yeah, Greg Yo, he's up there. I mean, he just won his super match for the Singapore Open, which EVW helped out a little bit. Uh yeah. He fought against Sean Crisper from Philippines. So and I think he said something along the lines of and he got most of his points through elbow Sean having an elbow foul, but yeah, see, pay attention. I see. I'm really watching all the arm wrestling videos. Really watching. Let's see. Yeah, I'm actually super behind in my chat now. I'm still now at 50 minutes behind. Race a little too chill to stir the pot. Since it's such a nice guy like Giannis, totally not wrong. Totally not wrong. Harvinda is saying Dexter Tan versus Derek Smith. Dude, the guy is so much bigger than me. You seen that guy? I can't even. I'm only against Benji. Benji was like, dude, I think you're only taking about 40% of my power, and Benji's a lot lighter than me. Not there yet. Arm wrestling, it's again one sport that I've come to very fast realize it takes a really long time to get to where you're good enough to start competing, or at least at the highest level. So anybody who thinks that they can just go in and get really good within a few months, they're kind of a little, they just have to really take a step back and reconsider that statement, because it's not just technique, but like I feel like because I watch and I get trained by literally the best like world champions like Robert himself and Devin, and I get access to all these trainers. So theoretically I know quite a bit, but the execution part, my arm doesn't tell, it'll surprise me. It's like, oh, I thought it's supposed to go much easier, but I guess I'm not. So no, 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 no. Unfortunately, here's what it is. Very often you see people, owners who were athletes and then they become owners, they end up not being athletes anymore. Which is why I tell you, I want to urge all of you guys, if you see Robert Baxter, arm wrestle that guy. You got to get him back to the table. I've been trying to get him back on the table. He says, I'm so busy. But he's a world champion until last year, right? So what I'm saying is, help me get him back, because who better to shut people up than the main the chairman of EVW Sports? You know, any athlete who wants a pay raise, arm wrestles Robert, not Devin. Yeah, I was about to say Devin. I go slip of the tongue, and I'm gonna get somebody's gonna clip this and make this into a controversial thing. But anybody who wants a pay raise, arm wrestles Devin. If you win, you'll consider something. Uh, uh, okay, so Big League 1148 asks, Dexter, can you share what you and Robert's ultimate vision for EVW is? Meaning how many events per year, what size venues? I'm curious what your vision of full success looks like. Okay, this is an absolutely perfect question, because Robert and I have been talking about this and talking and talking and talking about this, right? The idea is we will have multiple events a month, okay, of ranging quality, of ranging of different production capability. We will have ultimately East versus West arm wrestling as the kind of the pinnacle. The EVW number events will be the absolute highest, right? We will have a lot of, like, I wouldn't call it B league, I'll call it A tier. So S tier would be EVW, which is only one, and then we have a few A level kind of events, whereby it could be in the form of like King of the Table, right? And sorts of feeds up into several different divisions, essentially, right? We need to have more events ranging all the way from not the amateur, complete amateur level, but there must be a system that feeds into our style. Because right now, at least right now, right? We have a pretty good relationship with WAF. So to me, WAF is more of the amateur level division, and then they graduate from WAF to come over into the pro scene, right? And so we need a way to have a pro scene that we could be a little bit more nimble, which is why I wanted. I'm still hoping, and hopefully with some added support, I could pull this off. Where, example, say King of the Table, we have been purchasing a lot of the equipment ourselves. We're putting more and more team together in order to test whether or not we can run a full production without hiring external guys in, right? Once we are capable of doing that, when we were spending like six figures on buying literally one of all the best equipments, because equipment rental, just to give you an idea, right? The one issue that no like it has happened in Istanbul for the longest time was the internet at the hotel wasn't stable enough. So they would get a truck, right? Like they would get a satellite truck. Now, to give you an idea about satellite truck, it comes up to maybe about 5 megabits per second. Okay. And do you know how slow that is? About 5 megabits per second. That's what it was pulling out. We If you have Google Fiber, you are at 1,000 megabits per second. So 1 gig uh, gigabits per second. That's 200 times faster. It can carry 200 times more data per second than a satellite truck. And then once a cloud comes over, the internet's dead. So now one of the equipment that we have to rent, and every time we rent it, it costs about $2,500. $2,500. It is what we call a live view unit. This unit, it's sort of like a router that you can put in your Wi-Fi. You can put in your Ethernet cable, plus different kind of modem, your cellular modem. So what we'll do is we'll have four modems, and each modem connects to like one SIM card. It's a specialized SIM card, and then it will aggregate all the data and push it into and so if one of, say, that Wi-Fi is down or the Ethernet is down, or there's a spike in user data, that unit will be able to pull in bandwidth and aggregate them and send it out straight into one continuous stream, right? That machine costs us thousands and thousands of dollars. This is just to ensure that you don't see a stream drop. Okay. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that we do that goes behind the scenes that nobody sees. But, with the guys, how much you guys, through your recommendations, you guys don't like stream drops, obviously. That's how much we're investing into things. So there's that. Let's see. Travis, yeah. I mean, now that so Travis is coming in Atlantic City, so we'll probably talk to Travis, see if he's interested. Uh Travis, you see, like Travis, if you notice, he's quite polarizing too, right? He has a lot of super fans because of the way that he conducts himself, but then he also has some people who likes it more mild, and so they're not for Travis. So I don't know. Let's see. DJ USA says 5,000 pay-per-view buys to cover production cost is too steep. Hopefully, you can acquire a mobile setup ASAP to reduce that cost. Well, thank you for doing some math there, DJ, because not everybody understands this exact number. But and also, you're forgetting that every pay-per-view buys, there are fixed costs that we absolutely have to pay, right? So, credit card, merchant services, that I think that was taken care of. But we have the broadcast team; we also have to pay them, from the tech perspective, and then so yeah. The only thing though I'm really confused is that if you are thinking of doing a promotion, and if you're doing it via, say, YouTube, you pay a flat 30%, I think 30% fee. Uh, but if you take the trouble to set things up like us, you end up paying sub 10%. About 10% would be a close number. So, but yeah. Let's see. Yeah, Jason Merlo has been doing super well. CBLA is asking, what is the average wage of an athlete? Supposedly the highest level. How many matches a year would be required for a livable wage? I think that's important for a growing sport. I think that depends on where you're from, right? So I've done visas for people in Ukraine, Russia, right? Because I'm the one who helps them reviews their application, and you'll be pleasantly surprised. I've seen I'm trying to think, like an engineer gets like $800 a month, 800 US dollar a month, and I'm like, whoa, that's pretty low. So if you kind of pull it up for the whole year, with bonuses and everything, maybe you're talking about a little over $10,000. I don't know, just say $10,000 US dollar a year, right? Uh, Depending on where they are at, they potentially could get that amount in one event, right? So what I'm saying is that especially for the Europeans, it's a lot easier for them to go full time than it is for the Western guys because of conversion rates. Let's see. Yeah, Blaze Pizzas too, and then we have one more. Right, this company can't see it, but it's Cup Pop. That's our new venture as well. Cup Pop. What's your ratio of production cost versus athlete cost per event? Hmm. Hmm. I'd say I'd say more than half of our cost goes to athletes. Of everything, including hotels, flights, and everything. More than half goes to athletes. Yeah, I don't want to come up with too detailed of a number, but that's what it is. It's pretty nuts. Um, let's see. Devin isn't pulling. Just use code IANA. Oh, that's funny. Yeah. So So if for people who missed that, if this becomes successful, I would like to also extend it to content creators too. It's just that this time, I mean, you guys seen how late we released the pay-per-view sales. It's because they were still figuring out the codes to get all the 22 athletes down. In the future, we'll also have time to put in content creators as well. So there's that. Oh yeah. And talking about our vision, we cannot I'm not supposed to say exactly in detail, because it's still not even we're still in discussion phase with them. We are talking to them already, but we are absolutely going to push and get potentially no longer in the pay-per-view business, and it will straight be in broadcast. Now, which broadcast streaming partner, I cannot tell you that yet, but when it comes to broadcast, then I think we'll grow a lot faster because right now, anytime we set up an event, we are very we have to always think about how's the strength of the card. Okay. And if a card's already strong, example, say, right, Levon versus Vitali, that's happening in Vienna. Do we need any other card in there? Do we need, another Alijan versus Devin in there, which is by itself a headliner material, right? That's a thought that goes through our mind, right? Because if you start stacking a card with all the best matches in the world happens in that one card, then we kind of are wasting the opportunity to spread it out. But if it's in a broadcast, we are not too worried because they give us a set number of payments, and we blow everything up, right? We just we fill out the cart and we push. We fill out the cart. Right now, we have to be very strategic on how we plan for the whole next year. We need a story. We need arcs, and Yeah, it'll be so much faster if we go on broadcast. We won't have to worry, and we can have more and more events because they pay us. If we the contract is by the event, we'll have more and more events, right? We'll have a bigger team to do it. Yes. So look at Pamela, the accountant. Yeah. Did you see my response? I actually sent you all the invoices. I did. Yeah. So Pam's here. She was because we bought a lot of massive equipment, for broadcast and audiovisual stuff. So that's why she's been chasing me to submit receipts to make sure that she can log it correctly. So Logan Bittinger is a name to keep your eye on. You know what's funny? He added me on Facebook yesterday, and I recognize him because he pulled Jeremy Parker, and I think Jeremy, he best Jeremy 3-2 or something. Yeah, on the Monster Factory. So yeah, potentially. Um, yeah. So in terms of ultimate vision, that's where we want. We need to go mainstream. One of Robert's goal in, I would say now is one of his life goals is to do a over the top reunion with Stallone himself, whereby we'll be giving a Corvette out, and so he told me this earlier this year, and I think 2-3 days ago when we had our phone call, he told me his whole vision. He wants to do this, and one of the things that I actually been toying around as well is that UFC grew really big with the Ultimate Fighter, right? Where it's a program where two coaches, two professional MMA guys, and they train their own camp. They selected their own, they have their own camp, and every week they have challenges and they compete against each other. And finally, at the end of everything, the two coaches compete with each other. I think that would be super fun. Now that would cost us. I did the math. Depending on the level that we want, we could be in the realm of anywhere from 300 to $500,000 for one season of that on a very very low end. Um, so that's kind of what I'm looking at too, because it's with the Ultimate Fighter where non-arm wrestlers actually start. No, sorry, non-MMA fighters or fans really got to know the athletes. So, and then when they like the athletes, they got into the sport. That's kind of how we're doing. So, Hunter got a match tonight. Oh, Hunter North and Valen. No, maybe, but we might shake things up a little bit. We might shake things up just a little bit. Oh, Marius Gate. Robert just called. I know Robert spoke in length with Svetan a couple of days ago, actually, and they had a really good conversation. I think the next step is Robert will try and get him pulling at EVW shortly. I mean, he's in his 50s, I believe. I think 53 maybe. So it's it's about time. It's about time for him. It's absolutely about time. Let's see. Well, De- Devin can always do the interviews. I mean, this time he is, you know, he's gearing up for Vitali, so he's not really. I mean, he hasn't started anything yet. So because he's not polling in Switzerland and now in Atlantic City, but he's coming, so he has a lot more time to kind of do all these interviews and whatnot. But I mean, once he gets going, he probably doesn't have the time and focus to do so much anymore. He's one guy, Devin, that I'll just tell you, and I wish more people are like him in a way where he is very I'm trying to find the right words, but very outgoing. He's very outgoing in a way where, and very proactive. Like he's constantly, most of the phone calls when he calls me for whatever, he will usually end as, "Hey Dexter, is there anything I can do for you? And is there anything I can do for the league right now?" That's usually how he ends his phone call, right? And there are times where it's very rare, very very rare that when I ask him, say, "Hey, buddy, can you help me out with this thing?" With, "Hey, can you help me repost this, whatever?" Right? Because his channel is obviously bigger. There's like, no problem, right? No problem. very rare he will turn me down, right? But he's just that kind of character that very easy to be approachable. He might be a jerk to some people on the table, but sometimes that's a persona thing. But but I think for the most part, it's just one of those very easy that I can call him up and says, okay, don't worry, I'll sure, no problem, right? So very, very, very easy to get closer. I'll give you another example, right? Last year, October, first time I met Devin Larrett, I really didn't know who that guy was, right? In EVW 15. I didn't know who that guy was. Because I was not in the arm wrestling world. The only arm wrestling I did was with Robert in our office. That was it. But I didn't know who he was, but he was so approachable. He was like, "Come, Dexter, let me teach you arm wrestling." So he started giving me a whole spiel, and it was a very high level kind of arm wrestling. I, like he was he was teaching me how to, kind of give and take and play with the thumbs, and I don't even know the rules very well at that point, but he was really helping me out. So he's that kind of guy who if I would say he's an ideal ambassador, he's up there, right? He's not perfect by any means, but he's up there. Like if he's the guy that to spur it and teach arm wrestling, I think he's a pretty good guy. That's yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean table antics, you know, that's to be debated, but yeah. Pulling John, yeah. DJ, I have watched Pulling John. Pulling John. Matter of fact, I think I watched it while with while I was in Ingen's house. I was there with Neil, I was there with Devin, and we were just all watching it. That was pretty funny. Let's see. Let's go, Pam. I'm getting whipped by our accountant for not submitting receipts. Let's see. When will the athletes be interviewed for EVW 21? Are we talking about like the athletes live stream? It'll be Thursday afternoon Eastern time. So uh it will be I'm targeting it'll be the same format but a little bit higher production because now that we personally own the equipment, it's a lot easier. Else, like broadcast companies, they charge, by the day, kind of like by the days with a minimum hours. So to hire a broadcast team to come set up everything, it'll be way too expensive. But 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 we bought a lot of equipment. We bought a lot of equipment ourselves, so we will be able to do multi cameras. We'll be able to do sound mixing. We'll be able to have multiple microphones, so nobody needs to share the microphone during the live stream. And again, it'll be one long continuous athlete interview in Atlantic City. We may not always want to do the same thing. We might want to shake things up and change things up a little bit every now and then. But until people get sick of, or get bored really of something, we might change. But yeah, Tulsa King Edition. CBLA just mentioned over the top Tulsa King Edition because that's where Stallone is currently filming his new TV show. Let's see. Have you tried getting broadcast rights with China? Actually, no. But January. Oh, actually, I don't have to tell you guys the exact stuff. But middle of January, I'll be in China. At a very big, Chamber of Commerce meeting. So I'll be looking at, a broadcast distributor. So now I know there's probably no Russians on my stream right now, but just so everybody knows, we do have a way to uh, distribute our pay-per-views in Russia. All right, yeah. So there's that. Oh, see, Pam just mentioned. I just checked and I did receive them. Thank you. I did. I only I did do my work. Okay, so Jacob, will the content still allow so much YouTube content? So we'll probably negotiate a little bit in the form where, fine, since it's on the network anyway, we won't be able to release the full matches. But at the very minimum, you allow us to use highlights, right? So, you know, we'll do highlights so at least people who are unable to get it gets to see it, see kind of the action, but not the whole, in it, not everything. But It's still preliminary. They're still reviewing all our pay-per-view data. They're still reviewing our demographics. We're putting a proposal together because we already had, I think, 2 meetings with them now. So another one asks, if Duvon does really good in the tournament, will he get a chance to get a super match on EVW? Asking because is he still only 17? Yes, from my understanding, he is pretty good. Matter of fact, I don't know if this is the big brother Rickert just helping out the younger brother, but Rickert says that Duvon's better than him. Well, at least when Rickert was at the same age. So we'll see. We'll see. We'll see. Duvon's coming. So anybody who would like to prove him wrong, come to the tournament. I cannot tell you what the network, which network is right now. You know, because they're trying to keep it pretty private. So until it's ready, we'll announce it. So I just purchased a pay-per-view with extended after polling. I'm gonna change it. I think with the idea, it's not called extended after polling. It's called extended polls. It's that as a slight clarification. Using Recurd to support my boy. Nice. If you move away from pay-per-view to network TV, let's see. Yeah, YouTube and social. So yeah, I think ultimately we'll still negotiate to be able to use and get our, because they also want us to do promotions, so they cannot not allow us to use our own content. You see what I'm saying? Who watches TV anymore? Well, I think many people do. They just connect it with Netflix and other streaming services. The joke always has been, right? People cut their cables to buy streaming, but now we have Paramount, HBO, Hulu, Disney Plus, Amazon Prime, Netflix, YouTube TV. I mean, might as well just get cable. So it's one of those super weird things. Um, yeah, and I'm sure there are others that I haven't signed up to, like Peacock, and I used that Peacock at one point. I think I got Peacock because of Yellowstone, the TV show Yellowstone. Oh, Apple TV too. Yeah, see, I got another one. Uh, will we be able to see the tournament? The tournament is not. Uh, so the tournament usually it's ran the way that we do it. Just so everybody knows, the tournament is ran by having a local guy run the event for us, right? And we'll take care of all the expenses because we have the venue there already, um, right? So that's usually a very big chunk of the cost, and then we'll split the revenue, that sort of thing. And it's because I'm like super focused on the main event. We don't want to have the stress of also managing the tournament, which is why we kind of sort of subcontract out the tournament to somebody else. So this time it's James Reed. So if you have any questions about the tournament, go James Reed. Uh, if he's not streaming, maybe we might be able to stream it. I have to check with the team if we have the bandwidth. I just don't want to pull my team from setting up and testing for them on a main event and get them doing something else that uh you you know what I'm saying. So in the past, all I did was turn on my iPad and go live. That's it. And it's a very low quality stream, but I might do it on my own personal channel because if I'm doing that level, because the quality is so bad that I don't want it to affect the algorithm for our main channel and get a whole bunch of thumbs down, right? So I gotta be a little bit careful. But potentially, I'll check with James. If not, I'll just set something up. I'll set something up. Yeah, Netflix buying Warner Brothers is huge, huge, billions and billions. What, 72 billion dollars or something. It's crazy. Give us a hint on who you're in negotiations with. It's a streaming company. It's a streaming company. A streaming company that has sports streaming. Salvation Damnation. Oh, that's an interesting name. What are your thoughts about GVW 2, Dexter? I heard they're going all in and going to dethrone you. What's your take? All right. Are you, is this your secondary account of somebody? Because that's not happening, right? I mean, have you seen that latest card? That card is, in my opinion, very very poor, and I think it's they probably only were able to get athletes who are not, who are coming for free, essentially. They they're not getting paid because, from my understanding, no athletes have, or very few athletes got paid. I mean, matter of fact, I think Ryan Bowen also never got paid, uh, because of special deals. But all I know is, if you don't pay athletes, I don't care what promotions you are. I know times are tough, but you should not be running a promotion if you do not have the money for it ahead of time, and you shouldn't be relying on future money that may not even come, which in this case it didn't come, to run a promotion, and start lying about, oh, I have so many homes and houses, I have so many properties, and yeah, community would know, man. I mean, that is karma. That's karma for lying. I don't know. Anyway, so our boy Mitch says, yeah, but don't tell anyone. People share their streaming sites with each other. Low. Yeah, I that's to be expected. But you know what? At that point, it's not my problem anymore. That's the streaming company's problem to figure out how to stop people from sharing passwords. That's not my problem. So as long as we get a pretty good deal, sure, we'll do it. What makes an athlete the GOAT? I would love to hear people's thoughts. I think, right, it comes in many forms. And here's the thing though, right? I think people need to be a little bit more uh there must be a little bit more clarity and specific. Okay? Example, almost nobody I've met would argue that John Berzing is the GOAT in arm wrestling. Okay? Nobody. Nobody. Even the new contenders, Lavon, Devin, would say he's absolutely the GOAT, no questions asked. But I think if we go into certain other aspects of things, example, let's say we go for another 10, 20 years, okay? By then, maybe Devin has slowed down quite a bit, right? But, he, I could say, because of John Berzing's contribution, uh, well, I mean, his length, sorry, right? John Berzing's longevity of dominance, he is the GOAT. But it can also come in a form where uh, Devin's contribution to the sport of helping us go mainstream, he becomes the GOAT in that specific, subsection, right? Technically, I mean, I don't want to say this, but Ingrid is also a GOAT in his form, right? He really put the whole East versus EBW together. So he's also the GOAT in his format, his subsection. So what I'm saying is, like, there's always the argument, is Jordan the GOAT or LeBron's the GOAT. I mean, one can argue who has more rings and who has better stats. And then you look at LeBron's, longevity so much longer. I mean, there's so many different stats. So I think if you want to say the GOAT, let's be specific. GOAT in what form? Greatest of all time in what? Longevity, in promotions, in being the ultimate strongest in history. Well, if it's ultimate strongest in history, then LeBron's there, not John. Yeah, a little bit more. You know, that's just kind of my thought. Guy Tanapat versus Bacho. Guy Tanapat is 85 kilograms. A guy from Thailand. He's a guy I actually am interested in bringing him to EVW. Uh, but he still needs to prove himself a little bit more, in my opinion. Just a little bit more. Just a little bit more. Yes, for people who are mentioning, Kisby is our backbone to our streaming company. So Kisby is a company who also helps bring, they're the sort of the broadcast partner of ours from the digital side that handles all our piracy tracking. They power our distribution of our videos. They power our apps. So yeah, all the technology side of things. So Logan Bicklinger, yeah, I mean his performance was pretty good, right? Uh, and knowing a little bit more about Jeremy's capabilities, and for Logan to edge him out 3-2, it's good. It's good. I mean, t- there will be a little bit now. Again, I'm not the matchmaker for the company. I can give my opinions, but uh, I think he needs a little bit more, just a little bit more, and then potentially he could be on this main stage. But king of the table, potentially, for sure. Yes, that's right. GOAT is always going to be fictional debate. It's subjective. There's a lot of different categories. I feel if we are specific on things, we will then you have multiple GOATs in different categories. But for now, I mean, the general consensus is John. But who knows, in the next few years, Lavon's name will be thrown around. Devin's name will be thrown around. I mean, so is it possible for an IFA affiliated country to host an EVW event? It is not the most impossible thing. Not the most impossible thing. Uh, um, as long as I believe we have certain criterias, like we cannot have any IFA active IFA athlete participating. We don't hire any IFA uh, team members. Example, we cannot have IFA refs, right? Then we are usually okay. But the problem is most of the time, if it's an IFA affiliate country, almost everybody in there is IFA, right? I'm talking about staff members and volunteers, whatnot. So it'll be challenging. It'll be challenging. What country are you from? Or what country are you thinking about? Yeah, I mean, that's right. I mean, if they messed up in other ways, nobody's perfect. I'm sure I messed up, but the only thing that I hope that you guys do for me is that when I mess up, call me out and let me know. Let me know because I'm always reading, I'm always checking, and I'm here. Anytime you think I messed up, come on my Sunday podcast. Tell me, Dexter, you're an idiot. You should do this instead of that. And I will review it and I will go back and discuss and digest. And if I'm really wrong, I will admit it and I will change things. And you guys have so many things that the company has been doing thus far. It's all based on literally my Sunday podcast. And I know some of my stream goes about usually about 90 minutes on average, maybe a little bit longer. And I thank all the content creators that cuts up my stuff, or fans really cut up my stuff and put it on Reddit or making their own YouTube channel to talk about it. So I don't really look at view counts. I don't really care about monetization on this channel. It's mostly figuring out what's the best medium to communicate and get feedback and criticisms and general ideas and directions for how we can move forward. So, hey Dexter, is the climber Devin met with Magnus Mitterbo gonna arm wrestle? I don't know. I actually spoke with his team because they requested that we send him some clips and whatnot. But good point. Let me go talk to him. Let me talk to Magnus and see if he would be interested. He's pretty strong, but he's a lightweight guy, which tells me he actually has a lot of potential. But the thing is, he is literally one of the best and still one of the best climbers in the world, right? It might be difficult for him to switch over to a new sport when he's already like the top, right? So if let's say he's kind of retired, it's easier for him to move over. So I don't know if that's possible, but we are like 80% IFA and 20% WAF in United States. That I don't know because I've never bothered to compete at the highest level, which is WAF or IFA, really. Well, technically, I've never really competed, so I'm not too familiar with the breakdown. I do know WAF is a lot more costly, but from my understanding, I haven't heard anybody argued that whether this fact is true because it seems so. It tells me it's true. It's that WAF standards are a lot higher than IFA. So if you're a WAF world champion, you easily beat the IFA world champion. That's what I was told. Now, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I just wish those two make up. And I strongly believe those, because there's a massive division in the global scale between IFA and WAF. is that why arm wrestling is not in the Olympics. So there's that. Leonidas, yeah, I believe after Atlantic City, he's heading to Devon's place to train. So very likely we might see him back. Hopefully before in April. I cannot guarantee. I cannot confirm nor deny. I cannot confirm nor deny. So with that said, I will leave you guys with this message. I will see you guys all in Atlantic City. And with the new extended pass, I hope you guys can spread the word about what this does for the athletes. We love to have more feedback. And anytime you guys have anything whatsoever, send me an email, send me a message on Discord, Instagram, Facebook. I'm always here. But I love to have you guys just keep communicating with me and tell me I'm the biggest fool and I need to change, or congratulate me. Either way, happy to always have a good time with you guys on every Sunday. And with that, I leave you all with, a happy Sunday. We'll see you next week. Keep pulling.